Alright, and welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. Today it is Eat, Smoke, Drink Prague edition. As you can see behind me, we've got this old looking fountain. It's probably not that old. We've got some legacy Soviet style buildings behind us, and it's very cold. That's why I'm wearing shorts. So today joining us is Craig Bardell.
Hello.
Craig is a whiskey obsessed maniac like I am. We all are. And he actually came from New Zealand to join us at the London Whisky Show, and he bought the sample. So this sample was given to him by Aaron.
Correct.
Right. So before he left, Aaron from Pokeno Whisky. So Pokeno is a region just outside of Auckland, or is it still in Auckland?
I think it's possibly classified as Auckland, but they wouldn't agree with that.
So it's a region just outside of Auckland. It's known for its bacon, and recently it's become known for its distillery as well. So Pokeno Distillery, from what I've gathered, and I don't know a huge amount about Pokeno whiskey, but appreciate it anyway, the sample for us to try. So tell us about this whiskey, man.
Well, it's a little bit of an interesting one. It's been finished and matured in a first full bourbon cask, and I'm guessing 2 to 3 years probably, because they are a relatively new distillery. And then it's been finished in a porter cask. So they have loaned one of their casks to a local brewery. They have matured their whiskey, beer in that, and they have then reclaimed the distillery and given it a finish in that. So yeah, quite an interesting thing, and the packaging it comes in is wonderful as well.
So it's basically bourbon cask and then a porter cask, no age statement, and like many craft whiskies, of course when you're starting out you can't have age statement. And just to give you a little bit of insight, I don't get paid for these reviews, okay? So yes, I sometimes get samples sent to review and talk about, and I don't lie in them. So if I don't like something, I will say. If I like it, I will say. But I'm pretty neutral about it. I mean, you can't compare a craft whiskey distillery that's just starting out to have the kind of stock that that Talisker or Klein-Leach or whatever would have. So we are looking at it from a craft whiskey point of view. But anyway, let's get nosing. First impressions, surprisingly on the nose for being a non-Scotch craft whiskey from Australasia. It doesn't have that hallmark of the Australasian smell. I don't know where that's from. Maybe it's the malt that people use, or maybe it's the still they use, or the water, whatever it may be. It doesn't have that.
Bourbon cask rather than wine cask helps.
It definitely does. The bourbon cask is quite prominent in there. Vanillin, sickly coconut, but not overpowering at all. I'm actually quite amazed. It does smell like, if someone put it in front of you, you'd think
it wouldn't. Just a young Scotch. Yeah.
Just a young Scotch.
Do you get anything that makes you think of the porter beer?
I've never really had a porter beer finished whiskey before, except for cask makes Jameson. I'm not sure if that's porter, but I know that's a beer finish, the brew something, whatever it is.
Ale, I think. Cask ale, I think they call that.
But I'm not really getting anything much from that. I am getting a slight earthiness. I'm getting a slight minerality, but it's fruit. I'm getting passion fruit. What other fruits are you getting in there?
Well, it's definitely citrus.
What kind of citrus?
Not overpowering.
What citrus? What kind of citrus?
Well, your lemon, a touch of lemon. But maybe
more lemon peel?
Passion fruit, apple juice.
More lemon peel?
Yeah, peel, maybe even the pith, maybe.
Pith? Alright, I get a lot of the lemon peel for sure. But I can't quite get the lemon pith, but obviously the nose is different. I get a green apple, or some sort of a sweetish apple-like flavor out of that. And what amazes me is every time I nose it, it deceives me to think that it could be a young whiskey. What are you doing there?
Just fingering it.
Oh jeez, you savage, fingering the whiskey, sniffing it. Oh, far out.
Not quite as oily as I was expecting, looking at the legs.
Animal, you're an animal. No, I mean
Rather pleasant.
The pleasant nose, a rather pleasant nose. In a way, let's
Cheers.
cheers to Pokeno and let's sip. Whoa. The nose and the palate, very disconnected. Very disconnected.
Quite like the taste. Quite like it. A little bit of punch.
46%. Not a bad ABV for a craft whiskey, which is fantastic. You know, like, I mean, Diageo Pernod released a lot of 40 to 42, 43s, 46. I think that's a healthy ABV. A good amount of alcohol. Alcohol is the glue of flavors, essentially, in my opinion. But look, from the get-go, when you have it, you can tell it is a young whiskey. You can't hide that. I mean, you can't hide it. And if you try to hide a young whiskey, you will fail, and it'll just become over-oaked, over-flavored, over-vanillaed, over-tanned, whatever the hell over. It just becomes too much. And when I say you can taste that it's a young whiskey, that's not a negative at all.
No, there was no new make note to it. It's
No.
quite mature in that respect.
It's not a bad thing. When we say it's a you can taste the youth of it. Youth actually provides a bit of balls in the whiskey, right? A bit of oomph, a little bit of power, but you can't taste like the back end of the palate now. The very, very final back end of the palate, I am getting a very, very subtle new make, which is actually what amazes me. Because usually when you have a young whiskey like this, no age statement, that's all you can get, right?
That's very good.
What kind of notes are you getting in there?
I've tried the straight sherry and bourbon cask from their range.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Without the finishing, and they are relatively cheaply priced. The standard ones, this one's obviously a bit dearer.
Yeah.
But I was quite impressed with those as well for a
'Cause-
basically sub-$100 whiskey.
Yeah, and that's what amazes me as well. So when we were talking about this before we were filming this, the bottles are selling, the standard line is sub 100 New Zealand dollars, and then the limited edition is probably a little bit more. But I'm impressed with the maturity in just a short amount of time. I mean, I'm guessing this will be sub 4 to 5 years old. Probably not legal whiskey yet. I don't know, actually. I don't know.
New Zealand 2 years.
2 years, okay.
regulation.
So New Zealand 2 years regulation. Everywhere else it's 3. I think it should actually.
Australia's 2 years.
2 years, is it? See, I think it should actually be 3, but that's just my opinion. I think that you shouldn't rush it to 2, because then people will make 2 as a as a goalpost to try and pump things out quicker. But if this is a 2 to 3 year old whiskey, I must say I am quite impressed. The development has been phenomenal, and I think that judging from this, it has a lot of potential. But let's go through the notes. Definitely that vanilla bourbon influence. There's a slight earthy, soily taste to it. Almost a bit like a wet leather to me, like a damp leather.
It could be the dirt in the water fountain, of course.
It could be, yeah, it could be. I mean, we did mix it with that. Or it could be the wet grass. But there's a slight earthiness to it. And there's a slight savouriness to it as well, like a shiitake mushroom. I don't know where that's coming from, but it's like, you know, when you soak dry shiitake mushroom and then you've got this brown water that comes off it, and not to smell it, but just you get that aroma. I've got this little savouriness, umaminess coming from this. I don't know if that's the porter or if that's just this character of the whiskey, because like I said, I've got no base of reference with the whole porter finish, okay? No base of reference at all. And I can't get any porter from this.
Now that I've almost finished my dram, and Henwood's only part way through,
Christ. Slow down.
it's actually getting quite juicy on the palate. The whole mouth, it's coated the whole mouth. A little bit of coconut in there, obviously, from the
Yeah.
White oak.
It's got a pleasurable sip. Quite a pleasurable sip. The floral and the fruitiness that I was getting on the nose is not quite showing up with the palate for me. It's not overly sweet and fruity. It's actually more umami and savory, light in tannin. The finish is but the finish is not uber long for me. But that's also because obviously time will give it more complexity in the barrel. But what strikes you in terms of the main note? What is the main note for you here?
Basically, the fruit and the coconut are the more dominant flavours, but not overpowering. Very, very well integrated, I feel. And in fact, I would rather drink that than a lot of no age statement, duty-free type Scotch whiskies. I think it would blitz most of those.
I can't disagree. I mean, recently you've been getting a lot of Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, duty-free exclusives that are no age statements, and it's just a little bit of a...
Sorry, Henwood.
No, it wasn't. That's all right. It's a little bit of a piss take, really, some of those. But no, I think this is actually more compelling and more interesting than those. And the fact that it's still quite young, and and no doubt they're putting aside barrels, that excites the shit out of me. And I think that is great. I mean,
imagine this another 3 or 4 years in the barrel.
And I don't think they're using small, tiny micro barrels. I think I get it. Craft whiskeys to start doing that to try and get some revenue and get some aging going on. But I personally think that some of those small barrels, they really need to start moving into bigger barrels, and just getting that slower aging going on. But look, in saying that, hey, that's my opinion. Some people love it, and I'm sure this will trigger some people. My opinions on New Zealand whiskey. Yeah, final impressions of this whiskey, Pokeno whiskey, bourbon, finish in porter cask. I think they're on the right track. I think whatever they're doing is on the right bloody track.
It inspires me to go to the pub and have a nice Czech porter.
Well, I suppose, yeah. Well, we're in Prague, right? Have a Czech porter. There we go.
Cheers.
So it's interesting. It's interesting because I think they are definitely on the right track. And to me, there are New Zealand whiskies that are on the right track out there. Okay, I'm not saying that most of that they're not on the right track, but to me, my main issue is the price of them, the utility price versus value. And look, this is a sticking point for me. Because I know it's a tricky situation. You have to balance cash flow and funding, as well as your product development. And people always say, "Oh, age doesn't matter." Well, that's bullshit. Age does matter, and you can almost always bring back some quality with some age. However, just because a whiskey is 40 years old doesn't mean it's better than an 18-year-old. But generally speaking, an 18-year-old whiskey will probably far surpass a 12-year-old whiskey in terms of complexity and flavor, as a general rule. But in my opinion, this here ticks the boxes. The pricing is great, and the size of the bottle is great. Okay,
700 mils.
Okay, 700
Cheers.
mils. 700 mils. That's a good size. Look, even 500 I can tolerate.
But 350s are a bit hard to swallow.
250 is a little bit much. In saying that, I believe they are going to start bottling at 700. But look, I'm not here to bag people's methods. All I'm here to say is I think that the price point is very important when you're trying to sell a young whiskey, because you want to support your local whiskey scene, but if the price tag is too hefty, well, it ain't a charity, right?
No,
because you got to drink it, you got to enjoy it, and
still got to enjoy it.
Yeah, and because I'm Chinese as well, if something is too expensive, then it literally adds bitterness to the flavor. Okay, that's just the Chinese way. But anyway, make sure you eat, smoke, drink. Cheers. Until next time.
Thank you, Aaron.